Smile, John.
Good evening. We're in Studio 6A tonight, and it's Tuesday, September 23rd, 2025. And it's my pleasure and distinct honor to be speaking with Mr. John J. Jeckovich. How you doing?
Very good, thank you.
You're looking well. You look pretty nice and green.
Boy.
You're looking really well.
Drab.
Yeah. He's looking pretty well.
Yeah.
Would you like a coffee?
No.
Would you like a crumpet?
No, nothing.
Nothing? I heard you had a special visitor today.
Yeah, Amber.
Amber Nicole Jeckovich. Yeah. What'd you guys do?
She slept for a while.
Hey, listen. It's better when a relative visits, at least, even though they sleep. We don't mind that. Just come and visit, right?
Yeah.
And what'd you guys talk about?
Well, she go to California.
You're very smart. Yeah, Amber Nicole Jeckovich is Mr. Jeckovich's great-granddaughter. She's in her 20s. She's a full-time missionary and an avid surfer. She has surfed literally all around the world. When it's winter here, it's summer in Australia. One time she stayed in Malibu for 4 months and surfing, and just very luckily, she left, and a week later the fires came.
Yeah.
Very luckily. So as Mr. Jeckovich has commented, Amber is flying to California on Friday for a week of surfing and a religious retreat in Oceanside in Malibu, California. And she is also going to be in surfing competition.
Yeah.
So you won't see her for a week, but after that she'll be back, which would be very nice.
Yeah.
So we're wishing Amber safe travels and good luck in her competition and her Bible study meeting she has ahead of her. So what else did you two do? What else did you two do? Did you two do anything else?
No.
Did you have a good dinner?
No.
It wasn't good?
Yeah, we had a dinner, yeah.
Good dinner, okay. Mr. Jeckovich was from Company H, the 2nd Battalion of the 291st Regiment of the 75th Infantry Division of the U.S. Army during World War II. Mr. Jeckovich lives by the motto, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift, right? Today is a gift. Where were you raised at, Mr. Jeckovich?
Niagara Falls, New York.
Where?
3663 Orleans Avenue.
Niagara Falls, New York. How was it when you were born
Beautiful city.
Beautiful city. How's it now?
Terrible.
Yeah. Mr. Jeckovich, as a teenage boy, he was drafted into World War II, and to sum it up, he was stationed in the European theater, primarily the Battle of Bulge and held Bastogne, which was 90% or more casualties, and then from there he liberated the concentration camps, which is a sight that no one would want to see. Even the most seasoned fighters became very sick. Even General George Patton, who fought in World War I and World War II. It wasn't nice. You couldn't imagine the horror that took place. So by the time Mr. Jeckovich was done with the war and all his duties there, he was awarded the Bronze Star Medal, the Purple Heart Medal, the Army Good Conduct Medal, American Campaign Medal, European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal with 3 Bronze Service Stars, World War II Victory Medal, Army of Occupation Medal with Germany Clasp, Combat Infantry Badge, Sharpshooter Badge with carbine, pistol, and machine gun. But you mostly operated the heavy-duty machine gun during the war, right?
30 caliber, yeah.
Yeah. Marksman Badge with rifle bars and Honorable Service Lapel Button, World War II. And we're reading his book and excerpts of his book. It's titled Their Mother's Sons. And how many pages was it?
What?
How many pages is the book?
849.
He wrote the beautiful book titled Their Mother's Sons. And it takes him from his father passing away at 11 and him caring for his mother to his mother's demise at 89. The reason why he got drafted was he could have enlisted and got a better job like his brother. He enlisted and never left New York State. He taught people to drive Jeeps. Did your brother have great driving talent?
There again?
Did your brother have great driving talent?
No, like the Philip I heard.
Okay. So Mr. Jeckovich made the supreme sacrifice, getting drafted so he could spend more time with his mother. And during that time, he was shot in the shoulder by a sniper. He was beat up, stabbed, bombed with a dirty bomb.
Lost a hip.
Lost a hip. What's a dirty bomb?
Got screwdrivers, knives, and everything else with it.
So the Nazis would pack it with a lot of metal garbage, so it does the most damage. Trench foot frostbite. You're in pain right now.
I'm right now 7. Right
Pain
now.
level 7. That's your estimation. That's the highest, right?
Yeah.
So you've been in pain for 80 years.
Yeah.
And also he still has shrapnel in his body from being bombed with the dirty bomb. That same bomb took off his buddy's head. Donald Lake was in the same foxhole. The only thing left from that teenage boy's on his head was gone, but there was a pair of his eyeglasses hanging from one ear. So that shrapnel still in his body. Yeah. So, how much is your book and where can we buy it?
Can't sell it.
The book is not for sale, never was for sale. It's not about money, he's okay there. The book is about giving the younger generation a better and more wholesome life, yeah. Some of the notes were, before I talk about when they broke the gates and liberated the prisoners in concentration camps, even with the barbaric conditions of the camps and the fact that prisoners often spoke different languages. See, that's an interesting fact, that in these concentration and prison camps, people from all over, they spoke different languages. That was a good fact.
Yeah.
Resistance did occur. Political organizations met secretly. One Polish resistance group in Auschwitz smuggled medicine and supplies to help relieve the suffering of fellow inmates. Those inmates who worked producing German military equipment in factories sometimes engaged in sabotage at the risk. So you're basically a slave that's getting abused and beaten in the concentration camps. And if you weren't able to work, if you're a youngster or an older person, you'd automatically be put to death. And you were stripped of all your clothing before you went into gas chambers because they'd recycle that. And if you had any gold teeth, they'd rip it right out. The most dramatic forms of resistance were armed revolts. Those who led these attacks did so out of desperation in a clear sense that all Jews in the camps were doomed. They figured that, everyone was doomed. The camps were meant, these Nazi camps, these concentration camps, they were meant to degrade and destroy life and to crush the spirit of inmates. Camp inmates who refused to give up hope or religious faith despite the circumstances engaged in spiritual resistance. One person, Abby Barron, was born in Warsaw in 1924. He was born, like you say, 1 year before you. He was in his teens when his oldest brother, Shalom, were deported to the death camp in Poland. They passed the camp and were assigned to work. Abby recalls that whenever he was faced with life and death situations, which was often, he would somehow figure out what to do, but he takes no credit for making the right choice. It borders on faith, divine intervention, nothing else. Where would I as a teenager get the sophistication and reason without supernatural assistance? Yeah. Once they were taken out prisoners on a transport, presumably they did not they didn't need so many prisoners at camp, so they're going to eliminate them. But they were taking away stronger specimens. It didn't make sense. I saw there was a chance to manipulate the situation. The blockmaster thought that people on the transports were going to be killed, and he pushed me to the end of the line in order to save my life. But something hit my mind which would not have thought of on my own, and I stayed on the line for the next transport. The blockmaster, Leon, a man from my own hometown, yelled at me, "I'm risking my life, you," swear word. "Tomorrow they'll make soap out of you." I was taken into the second transport. They took us away to a forced labor camp that was not as bad as the other camps, a branch of Auschwitz. Later I found out that aside from the 3 transports, the rest of the groups were killed, gassed or machine gunned, including Leon. So Leon tried to help Abby, tell him don't go on those 3 transports, go on the other ones. As it turned out, divine intervention, Abby did go on to one of the 3 transports, and he went to a labor camp, and they had too many prisoners, so the Nazis, the transports, trucks behind them, all those young men were gassed or machine gunned and killed, including Leon, who warned him not to go on the first 3 transports. My brother in his early 20s was maybe too intelligent. He thought there was no sense in fighting. He lasted in the camp only 5 to 6 weeks, yeah. Abby was assigned with another young prisoner to the coal mine. Using explosives, they broke coal into small pieces and transported it in and out of the mine in a wheelbarrow. Could you imagine the conditions using explosive in these mines just to break up coal and moving it out by hand? Horrible, horrible conditions. Coal was the main ingredient fueling Hitler's war effort. He worked close to 12 hours a day without food. At night we were fed soup and given a piece of bread for the next day. I was hungry and thirsty and tired. I was glad to be finished with my shift. The German mining engineer, Stolz, the only name I remember from all the Germans, yelled at us, "I'm retaining you for another shift because you didn't work hard enough." Then he walked away. He was a strong man, about 6 foot tall. After a while, we thought it'd be safe to leave. We started to go, but Steiger Holtz suddenly stepped out of a hiding and began to beat us with 2-inch wide beams. We ran from him down the shaft back toward out the work area. He threw the beam at me, and I fell and landed on a shallow edge of a large dirty pool of water on the floor of the mine. What a horrible conditions. Holtz dragged me to the middle of the pool where the water was deeper and stepped on me. The German thought I was dead, but I had some life left in me. I was able to lift my head just enough to breathe. I was scared. I didn't know what happened to the other inmates. Now these are young teenage boys. After a few minutes I got up. Steiger Holtz saw me walking around the shaft. He was amazed, and he blasted me with water from a fire hose going at high pressure. Right away I fell down in pain, but the water washed off the muck. Yeah, the Nazis used a lot of fire hoses. During the middle of winter, these beautiful prisoners are dressed in absolute rags and no shoes. And for entertainment, the Nazi soldiers would blast you in the middle of a field with the fire hoses and watch you turn into an icicle. Horrible, nasty bastards. A Polish civilian in the mine helped me. He saw what happened. He took me aside to the boiler room and gave me something to eat. I had to stay there for 8 hours until the end of the shift. And then they dragged me back to the camp to a sick hall room where there was somewhat better medical care. I had a fever and stayed there for a week until it broke. When I went back to work, the other inmates was not there. I never saw them again. Stolz Holzer saw me and said in German, "You still alive? You are a super Jew." He had certain respect for me. From then on, he used me as a translator instead of loading coal. I don't know where I got the shushba to preserve. Wow. Yeah. There were many Jewish partisans groups in Eastern Europe, including Polish groups, and thousands of Jewish fighters among the ranks of Russian partisan groups. Jewish partisans were also members of partisan groups from Lithuania. Their non-Jewish counterparts had trained military officers among their ranks. They had the support of their families and communities. The Jewish partisans had no one to go home to. Frank Blackman was 16 old at the start of the war. He came from a religious family from Poland. In my town, we heard rumors that the Germans were deporting Jewish communities and ghettos to death camps daily. We felt we were next in line. That was just a matter of time. I was a young man then, not quite 20, but I promised myself that I would not go freely no matter what. I managed to say goodbye to my loved ones, and I ran away. It was October 1942. I had a promise from a Polish farmer, Alexander Gloss, from a village in Poland. I knew him from before. He said if I needed to hide, I could stay with him and his family. My friend Yankel and I first ran away to a castle which belonged to Baron Somunsky. There was 2 Jewish boys working as slave labor there. We went to warn them of the deportation, but they already knew. They asked the head housekeeper if they could give us food and shelter for the night, and he agreed. At about 5 a.m. the next morning, we went to a young forest near roadway where we rested and waited for daybreak. We heard whispering voices around us. Upon investigation, we found over 20 men who ran also away and came here for the same reason, to find out more information about deportation and the fate of our loved ones. What a tough life, huh?
Yeah.
We were now between 25 and 30 men, and we banded together. We chose 2 blonde-haired, blue-eyed boys to investigate the deportation, to being deported further, They returned with information they had learned from a Polish farmer who was passing by in a horse and wagon. They learned that they were being deported had occurred. The Germans entered the town with the help of the Polish police. They chased all Jewish families out of their homes. Whoever could not run fast enough was shot and killed on spot. Wow. What animals.
11 minutes.
Huh?
11 minutes.
The rest were sent off to a camp. The rumors were so feared that became reality. We sat in a circle debating on what to do. Yeah, what do? You got no weapons, you got no resources. What do you do? The majority decided to join their families. My feeling was that if there was a ghetto, I could always get in, but if I had to escape, it might be too late. I also had Farmer Gloss' promise in mind. They tried to convince me, and I felt very confused. Of course, you're a teenage boy, you got death all around you, and you're hiding out so you don't get killed. I was the youngest among this group of men. At 3 p.m. they began their trip to Lubitov. I actually began walking with them. However, when I saw a church spire of Lubitov several miles away, I was struck by the reality. I had promised myself not to go to any ghetto or camp freely. I asked my friend Yankel to join me. He said no. I said goodbye and be healthy to all of them. How could you be healthy? There's no food. There's death at every corner. I was now really alone and started crying. I went on to Gloss Farm. They took me in and treated me like their family. They asked me no questions. They gave me food and told me to sleep. Let me sleep in the barn, knowing that if I was discovered in the house, everyone in the family would be shot. I couldn't sleep. The next morning, the farmer told me more bad news. All the Jews from Kamaka were put on trains, destination unknown. I visited my town to see for myself what happened. I saw a little boy named Otto who told me his parents were hiding in the forest with others. I then told Farmer Gloss I needed to go away for a few days. He said, "Be careful and go with God." I went to the Bratnik Forest, and there I found a campsite. With about 100 Jewish men and women living under the most primitive conditions in bunkers dug out of the ground. Oh my God. Quickly began to bond together. I was fortunate to find my cousin Ephraim Levine and his brother Osla. One day, some of us went into a nearby village to buy food. When the Polish peasants saw us, they began to sound the alarm. They beat the pots and pans and beat the tin on the roofs and sticks, and while screaming, "Risey, Jews, Jews!" they chased after us with pitchforks and axes. We all ran away unharmed, but were shocked. We did not expect the peasants now would treat us as they did. It was at this moment of grim reality that we realized we must organize in order to survive.
8 minutes.
Under the leadership of Yanko Clare, we began to search for firearms. That's a hard thing to do. We traveled many miles every day looking for weapons, but finally found only deadheads. Yeah. One terrible day, we returned to our campsite to find out it had been raided. All of our bunkers had been blown up by the Germans. 80% of the group had been murdered. There were no words to express how we felt. The only thing we could do was to bury the dead and say Kaddish, the prayer for the dead. We then swore on the graves that we would avenge our brothers. A few weeks later, in December 1942, we were standing around a fire baking potatoes when an old friend, Chaim, suddenly showed up like an angel. He told me he had a job as a carpenter with a Polish group. The farmer there bragged about how many guns he collected from the Polish army. When the Germans had defeated them, they had thrown their guns all over the countryside. Oh yeah. We organized 12 men to go out at night to negotiate. We had pitchforks and a small pistol. Shabis, a tall, dark guy with a mustache, and I was a tall, skinny guy with a mustache. I had also gotten a coat from a Polish policeman. We looked official. The farmer, Lenchemik, opened the door in his long underwear. I spoke fluent Polish. I put the flashlight on Shabis, who was impressive looking. I told the farmer, "We are Russian paratroopers fighting the Germans, and we have to organize a partisan fighting unit." We heard that he had hidden a cache of firearms. We wanted him to give us the arms willingly because the Germans were also the enemy of the Polish people, yeah. At that point he said, "Come with me." He took us to the barn. He pulled out a handgun, then a rifle from the thatch roof and ammunition. I gave it to my men. Another found a new rifle covered with grease, buried in the snow. I walked over to Lechman's neighbor and gave him the same speech. That night we got 6 guns from 5 different neighbors. We captured 2 collaborators. From them, there we learned a wealth of information. They had organized and trained by the Germans to hunt for Jews and to threaten and spy on Polish peasants. Whoever would help a Jew would be killed with their family on the spot. Oh, horrible. They admitted to us that we were the only ones who had led the Germans to our campsite on the first raid. They supplied us with the names and other collaborators and even their passwords. with the information and managed to capture many collaborators, and we punished them accordingly. Wow, they had a horrible life, didn't they? As teenage boys, and then half of them, more than 3/4 of them, ended up in concentration camps where they're literally beat or worked to death, tortured of all sights, all types of Nazi tortures. So after Mr. Jeckovich fought in the Battle of Bulge and held Bastogne, he liberated the concentration camps. That's amazing. When he got to the concentration camps, what did he tell you not to do?
Don't feed them.
Don't feed them. How come?
The systems are upset.
They haven't ate. Beautiful men, 190, 200 pounds, now they're down to 60
Yeah.
or 70 pounds. Tortured in ways you couldn't imagine. Before they would gas or machine gun down the babies, the teenagers, and the elderly. They weren't able to work. They stripped them of their clothing so they could recycle it, and then ripped out if any of the older people had gold teeth.
John, do you remember how many camps you were at?
What?
Do you remember how many camps you were at? How many camps did you go to? POW and concentration camps.
Me?
Yeah.
Four of them.
Four of them.
Four of them?
Yeah.
They'll wrench space your mind
Yeah.
forever. Yeah.
Put the bolts on the chains on the fences, let them out.
Wow.
Was any of the Nazis still there, or did they already gone by this point?
They're all gone.
They took off
Yeah.
like scared sheep. Like scared sheep. After World War II ended, and the Pacific War was still raging on, were you worried they were going to send you to the Pacific?
They said trooper order to see what's going on.
But you didn't go to Pacific.
They was ready to go there.
You were ready to, but you never made it to Pacific, right?
No.
Did you want to fight in the Pacific?
No, I didn't want to go to Pacific, no.
How about Africa?
No, worse.
Worse. How about the Russian front line?
No, that's worse.
Yeah. So, war's terrible, and you were shot up in many ways, and we had great casualties, but European theater was the best for you.
Yeah.
During World War II, we had many patriotic young men and girls that 16,400,000 of them participated in the war, and now we're down to less than 4,000 combat infantry fighters like Mr. Jeckovich, and we're losing them at a rate of 200 a day. So do the math. The time is now. The time is now. If you have this World War II hero, if you want to ask him any questions, text him at 407-366-0000. 407-366-0000.
Or leave them in the comments.
Or leave them in your comments, yeah. Time?
A minute 40.
When you got out of the war, did you ever run into any fighters from World War II that you might have known?
Say again?
When the war was over and you went back to Niagara Falls, New York, did you ever bump into many World War II veterans?
No.
No?
I don't think they talked about it too much.
They didn't talk about it. The greatest generation ever, they didn't fight it, talk about it. Mr. Jeckovich is knocking on the door of the 100.
He only started talking about it 2 years
They
ago.
only start talking about it now. They don't talk. They're the greatest generation of all time. I've noticed in reading his books and his materials, that generation was very patriotic, and they had great empathy. And empathy is the glue to civilization. Empathy is the glue to humanity. Without empathy, you have nothing. Wow. That was a hard war, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You're still suffering this very minute.
Yeah.
Still suffering this very minute. Wow. We've had wars for thousands of years. We'll have wars for 1,000 wars. So please, mothers, don't sissifiy your boys. They have to be tough. They have to be fighters. Your mother made you tough.
Yeah.
That's why you survived the war.
Oh, my mother was tough.
Your mother was tough.
Yeah.
She came from Poland the legal way. Your father came from the ghettos of Russia the legal way. They were tough.
10 seconds.
But your mother was tough, right?
Yeah.
Tough but loving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What pick this up tomorrow.
Got another one in the books, you did a great
Yeah.
job. You could